Hi, everybody. Welcome. First of all, thank you all veterans who have served or family members of veterans because today's Veterans Day and we really appreciate that. So I'm going to grab my screen share. You got it now?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. So far, we are in the fourth of a series of 6, but these are all individual pieces that begin with how to have some career development in your life. And we began with looking at some really granular questions that help identify not just what skills and experiences that you have, but looking forward to where you want to apply them. And it might be completely different from where you are right now. And then we looked at pouring that into your resume, which is more of a thumbprint of all of that information in a very concise form, and then LinkedIn profile, which is sort of like your personal brand website, so to speak, and it's a lot more robust. And all of that is really helpful when it comes to your own career development, whether you're looking right now or not. However, it's kind of like coffee sitting in a pot. It's not going to do a whole lot of good. It means you're ready for people to find you, but it works a lot better in career development for those next steps if you pour it out. So that's what we're going to look at right now, is pouring it out of the pot and spreading the wealth. And that means making, growing, and leveraging connections that you either currently have or that you want to have. So the first part of those connections is making contact. And when it comes to making contact, we're going to look at 3 different pieces of those connections: making, growing, and leveraging connections. The first one is making contact. And what that accomplishes for career development when you're pouring it out of that coffee pot is really about being top of mind. And I'm going to try and give you examples throughout today. We also, at the end of this, will have a deck that is a little bit less graphic-y so that it can be sent out. So if you want some of the notes that we're talking about today. So let's look at contact and being top of mind. The first thing I want to do is just talk about you can make contact by being reactive. So in our industry, you're going to be receiving a lot of contacts either through your current business, through your past business, and that's reactive. It's responding to those people that are contacting you. But the second piece of that about being top of mind is being proactive. In other words, reaching out and making contact with other folks. And you're in marketing, of course, you know all of this, but it really is helpful when it comes to a career development plan to have a plan. And that means identifying companies and people with whom you want to make contact for those next steps, whether or not you're in the job market, or even better, when you're not searching, so that you are ready for that next step and also can be of help and top of mind to other people. So instead of being passive, you want to reach out. And I have my 5 coffee cups here. And the first way to reach out is to go really broad and be global and dream big. What are some companies that you would like to connect with? And again, this could be applying to your career development, but it's also for your own business development. So I have my Starbucks cup because they're global, and you can look at companies that are nationwide, that are quite large, but not just looking at companies, it's also looking at people and really investigating those companies. And I'm going to look at some examples in just a few minutes. But then honing down that plan and looking at regional. So my next coffee cup here is Caribou. Caribou is located, their headquarters is in Minneapolis. Big Shoes Network is very regionally based. So we work in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois, and companies and individuals in those regions. Now, some of those may be global because they are global or national companies, but their headquarters and their locations are within that specific region. The third piece of that plan, so I would identify like 10 companies that perhaps are national or international, and then identify another handful that are regional. And by the way, one of the things that we're seeing in our business is that those really large companies are not posting as many opportunities because of the contraction due to COVID, but the regional companies, we're finding a lot of opportunities in those regional companies. So definitely look at that as an opportunity base. The third piece is my middle cup which is the communication group. It's PRSA and PRSSA out of Green Bay and the Fox Valley. So this is the Keep Calm and Carry On Cup that I have. And these are professional associations, but professional contacts within the marketing. In our case, it's communication, advertising, web, graphic design, social media. So reaching out to those professional organizations and fellow pros that perhaps you've always identified as a leader, as someone who's well connected and is just somebody that you want to know, or a company that also has some expertise in that area. And I'm going to do a little sidebar here. On Big Shoes Network, what's a little known resource base that we have is a resources page on our site. And in there we have all the professional associations, recruiting organizations, contracting firms, and content resources for our industry, for marketing, advertising, PR, web, graphic design. So when you're connecting with those resources, here you're seeing just a very small list. We have 60 plus of associations in the Illinois marketplace. So maybe I identify an association in a particular region in my marketplace, and then I want to identify people. And so I go to that association site and I look at their leadership page, and here are just a few contacts that perhaps I might want to connect with. A leadership of a professional association might have like 10 people. Maybe there's 3 that I want to connect with. So it's reaching out and making contact with those folks. Okay, then let's really get close to home and go local. I'm on the board of the marketing degree program in the business school at Marquette University. And so perhaps getting involved at a local level, and that will connect you and help you be top of mind with other professionals in those organizations. And then my last cup is personal. And this is one thing that a lot of people don't think of when it comes to being top of mind, but people don't know if you're searching. People don't know perhaps even what your business is or what you quote unquote do that are in your family, that are in your community, that are in your faith-based group, that are in your book club. And so reaching out, touching base, and simply verbalizing periodically with those folks what you do and what you're looking for, because it is about being top of mind. So for example, I have some folks in my book club. One of those folks works in an education institution in a high school, and they were looking for a marketing person. And she had completely just forgotten, because I'm her friend, that this is my business. And as a result, they ended up posting on our site because we had a conversation about marketing during our book club. The other piece of that plan is having a tracking mechanism. So as you begin to expand your network and make connections, and I had never really done any tracking until COVID hit. And then I went back to our client base and I exported those contacts from LinkedIn and from our customer base system. And I combined them in an Excel spreadsheet. And so I have the contact company on the first column, and then the contact name on the second column. And that company name is our contact list that we've done business with. But the next column is this person still at that company? And if yes or no, if no, where are they now? That's my next column. When did they change and what is their new title? And then finally, I'm starting to reach out to all of these folks via LinkedIn. So being top of mind is being proactive with new people, but also circling back to the contacts that you used to have and tracking that. And what is very cool about this is sometimes I'm ashamed that I haven't connected with a lot of our buying influences on LinkedIn, but simply by looking at their profile. So this last week, I just looked at one profile of an individual before I reached out and said, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. And that company ended up posting on our site because we were top of mind. And the same thing is true with a job search. If your name lands in someone's LinkedIn contact list, or if you reach out to someone you used to know, they don't remember that perhaps you have this expertise or that perhaps you're interested in making a move. And so simply by being top of mind, maybe 1% of the time, oh, yeah, I'm going to touch base with this person or say yes to this connection. And by the way, we are looking for someone with this expertise. Top of mind is it's amazing to me how well that works sometimes. So making that proactive contact and being top of mind. And here are some examples of how you can do that. I went to a webinar a few weeks ago through a Chicago group, the NSENG, it's North Shore Executive Networking Group. And the guy that runs it is Marty Gilbert. And he said, what the hell? Because sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I should contact this person because this is my dream company, right? The top 10 companies I really want to work with. And now I've discovered a leader. And what would the chief marketing officer want to do with a little person like me? What the hell? What have you got to lose? So reaching out to people. Once you ask for that LinkedIn connection, if someone does connect with you, once you reach out on Twitter, if someone does say, yeah, you can follow me, then you'll start to see information online because the algorithm will start to feed you. So that's the other cool thing about being top of mind, because when you start reaching out, the algorithms go, this person has an interest relevance in this area. So a few weeks ago, it was Steve's birthday, and I reached out on LinkedIn and I said, happy birthday, Steve. And he said, oh, thank you very much. 2 opportunities to be top of mind. Another way, thank you for using Big Shoes Network in the past. And sometimes it's been 5 years past, but a lot of times those positions don't turn over for 5 years past, right? So it just so happens on that day when I reach out, they have an opening and they post on our site. Hey, we cross paths through AMA. It would be great to connect. So for example, in this group, you might identify some folks, but let me show you something. I was at an event online a few weeks ago, or not even a few weeks ago, a few days ago. Here are the list of people that appeared that were part of that webinar. I'm going to check them out. And if they have alignment with our business or with opportunities, I'm going to connect with them, or if I can help them. We've crossed paths through AMA. It'd be great to connect.
And to
How
that
about
end,
a long, pardon?
I'm sorry, Martha, and I'll interrupt real quick. And to that end, if you don't know about the save the chat feature, down in the lower right corner when you're on the chat section of Zoom, there's the 3 dots. And if you click on the dots, you can save the chat.
Absolutely. And the 3 dots are your friend. Dots and hamburger lines are your friends. So investigate those, because here that I've long admired your work at such and so. Perhaps you reach out to someone on LinkedIn and you see that they don't have a connect button in the top right corner, but they have a more with the 3 dots. A lot of times when you click on that, you will see that they have a connect button. And if they're a third or a second connection, you'll be able to make that happen. How about congratulations on your promotion at such and so? So for example, once you start to connect, you will see when someone gets a promotion and you can reach out to them that way, or perhaps it's their work anniversary. And then finally, for those personal contacts that you've had connection with, hey, just touching base. How are you holding up during this unusual year? So reaching out to people, and here's just some examples. Okay, that's top of mind. A minuscule percentage of those will represent opportunity for you, or you will be an opportunity for them. But then it goes deeper, and that's making multiple connections with those people, or touch points with those people. It's connecting the dots so that instead of just being random, it actually starts to take form and function. And let's look at that. So here's some digital touch points that you can have as you're making those connections, top of mind to touch points. What are some commonalities we have? Well, you can go to various companies, particularly those 10 larger ones or those regional ones, and a lot of times they'll have a career page where you're reaching out for opportunities, and you can set up your own profile like you would in LinkedIn or in Indeed or something like that, where it will alert you when there's an opportunity. Go to that company page and sign up to get their newsletter. The worst that can happen is it's really repetitive and you just delete it each week. But you can find out some awesome content and start to align touch points from that content. I see that you just opened up a new location, Mr. Leader. It's right by my office, and we're thrilled to have you in the community. That kind of stuff shows up in new leaders. Hey, newsletters, you landed this account. The other thing is, a lot of times those company pages those professional association pages of the dream organizations have a leadership page where you can find out who's on the board, who's the CMO, who's the CFO. And if it's someone that you have some commonality with, go back, make that contact top of mind, and again, reach out through multiple touch points. Magic doesn't happen immediately. It is a purposeful, multiple connecting points. It's the dots on the ladybug. And then finally, you can sign up through LinkedIn with very specific companies to get alerts when job opportunities happen. And again, this isn't just for you. It's for people in your network that you can then help. So it's those multiple touch points. Follow those same companies on social media, the various platforms that they are participating in. Follow those contacts in various social media platforms. So you'll find that the bigger companies will have LinkedIn and Facebook and sometimes Instagram, but very often the individuals will have an Instagram account and a Facebook account. Also, follow their content. In other words, when things start getting posted on those platforms, you have some leverage. You have some digital chops that can help give them something, which is by liking and sharing and commenting. And also, when they post content, you can learn more about the culture of the company or the activities of the individual leaders. Multiple touch points that help make a connection. And then use the hashtags that they use, but perhaps if you're open to work, make sure to include that as a hashtag or create your own hashtag that is very singular to your expertise. So we have a hashtag I use all the time, hashtag Big Use Network. Sometimes I use next steps because that's another aspect of what we do. And then finally, you're honing it down and eventually, perhaps you'll have an opportunity to get an email for even a closer connection. All that following will result in it will also result in another touch point. And this is what happens. You know, when you're kind of sniffing around and you're following someone or someone's following you and you're like, who is this company? Or who is this person that I keep seeing pop up whenever I'm in this particular social media platform? Well, then they turn around and they start sniffing around about you. Like, well, what's going on over here? And it's another touch point. So now you've not just become top of mind once, but you're starting to become top of mind with greater frequency to a company and an individual. Nothing's going to happen for a while, but if they do have a job opportunity, instead of just replying to that posting, now you've got these touch points and you can reach out to that person and meet with them virtually or on the phone. Or the good old fashioned way, assuming we get around some of the stuff that's happening right now. Or honestly, sometimes people are still going to their office, so reaching out to them through postal mail. So here's a good example of what happened recently. One gal reached out to me and wanted to connect on LinkedIn, and we did have some commonality. So I said yes. And then this is what she said. Thanks for connecting. Wanted to take a second to say hello. We forget to connect beyond LinkedIn. It would be great to talk to you. And I was relieved because I just didn't want another virtual meeting. Like sometimes I get tired of Zoom meetings, right? So we reached out. We had a great half-hour phone call. I found out that she's really quite good at analytics in her company is. And so I just referred her to some other individuals. And she may reach out to me and we might have some commonality in the future. Okay. Breathe. When you start having this plan and making contact and being top of mind, when you start circling back with those multiple touch points, the algorithms and other individuals are going to see what's happening, and it can be a little overwhelming because then you're going to start getting all these other contacts, or you'll look over on the right hand side of your screen and go, ooh, there's like 10 more people I can contact. Do have some boundaries in making connections. And here's what my boundaries are, and yours might be different. But for me, I could get really sucked into a half a day of doing this, of just, I see all the notifications. Oh my gosh, congratulations. give your, like, set a boundary. For me, it's like an hour on Monday, an hour on Wednesday. And then if I have time on Friday, I'll circle back. For us, for me, I only receive connections or follow back if the company or the individual is in our Wisconsin, Illinois, or Minnesota region. I get a lot of China, Russia, India. So I just don't do that. And even if it looks like a very credible resource, I just don't, because it can be distracting. If it's outside of our region, I really vet that well to make sure that the individual either has some kind of connection to our region, perhaps they went to school here, or professionally. We have a number of people that purchase job postings, but they're out in California, in Colorado, in Florida. It's for opportunities that are here in Milwaukee. So I check to see if they have outlets here in Milwaukee. So time, location, profession. Set your boundaries and stick to them, because it can be really fun, especially in a down economy, to just start connecting all over the place, but you're really not getting done what needs to happen to generate income. Okay, top of mind, the initial proactive connection using a plan and tracking. Multiple touch points where you're following and reaching out, etc. The next piece is the last piece, which is leveraging all of those opportunities, all of those connections. And this can be a turning point. This is where, when someone has multiple touch points and you've kind of been sniffing around, now you reach out and ask. And these questions are something that I use because Wayne Breitbarth recommends them through his LinkedIn, the Power Formula. So here's my 5: global, regional, professional, local, personal. At some point, I might ask them and say, hey, if I'm looking for work, or if I'm ready for that next step, or if I'm looking for company opportunities, do you know anybody in your company that is looking for this kind of person? Or do you know this specific person? Or do you know the director of marketing at your company? Would you be interested? Would that person be interested in my skills? So now I have a contact, a specific person that I've been relating with over the several weeks or months or years. And I ask these questions. Could I use your name as a contact when I reach out to them, either in LinkedIn or email or something like that, or through the job posting? This doesn't mean, some people have used this with me and they think, oh, it's a job reference. Well, if you've never worked for me, I'm not going to give you a job reference. You're not asking for that here. You're simply asking, could I say, hey, Steve recommended I reach out to you? Or, hey, I know Steve in your company and he's a great colleague. And so we have this connection. And then ask that same contact that has the person you're trying to reach, what's the best way to get a hold of him or her? Best time of day, that kind of thing. Okay, so you've got these top of mind. That's a top of mind, which is your connection. You've got your touch points, which is, reaching out and going a little deeper. And now we're in that leverage where you're asking other people and utilizing those touch points. But do not ever forget to be a turning point for somebody else, because that can also result in multiple opportunities. And here are some examples. First of all, helping other people. I have a friend who started this group called Helium, and it's a book organization where I won't go into detail, but they're wonderful. Another man reached out to me via LinkedIn because he has a career opportunity for helping folks who've been in prison and wants to help get them connected to opportunities. So he reached out to me. His story is amazing. He was in prison, got out of prison, had some really difficult time finding work, ended up finding opportunities, but now he wants to help other people. Well, Helium has a podcast. So I said, your story would be great for their Journeyman podcast. So connecting them it helps me to reach out to other people, but more importantly, it really helps them. So referring and recommending other people. But what about the non-career job? Sometimes I get people who say, I love all this information, Martha, but I need a job right now. And I'll tell them, then go get one. An example is someone needed some income, Mike. And I said, then go get a part-time job where you're earning 15, 20 bucks. So that's what he did. He started working as a teaching assistant in a local school. There was another guy, Joe. that also did the same thing, even though you wouldn't really know it because Joe owns his own company and he just needed another stream of income for the time being. Well, Mike just got a degree. He was an event coordinator on cruise ships. So he went back and got his degree in web development because that wasn't working for him. And Joe happened to know some people locally that Mike would have, there were his dream companies. They were talking on the playground. So Joe connected Mike. So you just never know when that non-career job, get that money now, helps you as a turning point. And then volunteering for other people in your volunteer organizations. I mentioned the book club, but how about mistakes? Okay, so I'm doing this connecting, and sometimes I admit that I don't sleep in the middle of the night, I'm doing it. But when I do it in the middle of the night, I make mistakes when I'm typing, and we're in the communication and marketing field. So sometimes I'll say, "Hi, Joe. It would be great to connect with you. My company, Big Hose Network, is blah, 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 blah." And then I click send. You know, like at 2 a.m, you're like, did I really do that? So I'll circle back and let's say, oh, and I'll write, blush. My apologies, Joe. I sent you congratulations or I sent you a LinkedIn request before actually checking my company name. No, we are not a gardening store, nor are we a human trafficking site. Actually, we're Big Shoes Network. That same person a week later is posting a job on my site.
Mhm.
Or is referring a candidate to my site. So you just never know. You only have to those mistakes with humor and authenticity, because honestly, that's what happens is people get a sense of your personality. You have gotten a sense of the personality of the company or the individual, and you can reach out in an authentic way and in an honest way. But here's the last step. If someone else has helped you in a small or big way, manners are huge. So reach out and say, hey, thanks. You were a great help. Or even today, a lot of people aren't working in the office, but if you send a thank you note, it will get to them eventually, right? So send a thank you note because there's another top of mind. There's another touch point. And you never know if that thank you note becomes a turning point because gratitude is very infectious. And now that person is creating, I'm gonna wonder how Martha's doing now. We have this communication position open. I'm gonna reach out to her. Okay. So we've grind, we've poured, we've perked, we've served. And so next week, we're going to look at branching out, not just regionally, not just geographically, but perhaps into different verticals or even different jobs. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to do. And let's open it up for questions.
Sounds great. Thanks, Martha. We're a small enough group. Just take yourselves off mute if you have a question for Martha. Martha, I do like all those ideas that you had. I'm getting a lot of traction lately, just going back through my contacts, and I go alphabetically.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. So so I just did. Last night I did. Gosh, I can't all the Jacks and Jackies, all the some of the J's, and
I'm on K's. I'm on my K's.
all right, there you go. So it's just something that I do. A couple times a week. I just go through different letters of the alphabet and just, hey, what's up? Haven't spoken to you in a while. And lots changed on your end. Lots changed on mine. Let's get together. And I've just had some great conversations over the course of the last few months doing that. Woman that I contacted is out in California. She's actually heading back here to move, and I was able to give her 3 folks that she can reach out to here that are would be perfect contacts for her and the businesses that she wants to get to. And she sent me a thank you note last week, or just a message on LinkedIn thanking me because she had made contact with all 3, and there's opportunities that will be here for her when she gets out here, or she's very confident of those opportunities. So it's just great reaching out to old contacts. I definitely recommend doing that.
What I do is I keep that spreadsheet open. Here's the thing with LinkedIn. First of all, it's really a good practice, particularly with LinkedIn in particular. With my own, with our own CRM for Big Shoes, it's easy. I can just export it. I can export it from QuickBooks. I can export it from our actual database. With LinkedIn, it's a really good practice a couple times a year to just export that list, because we don't know when they're going to lock it down and say no longer accessible. In fact, what they did not too long ago, well, about 6 to 8 months ago, maybe longer, now when you export that list, you don't get the email of the individual because of all the email spammers out there. But if you export that list, I just keep it open. And that way, I don't know about you, but usually on Monday or Tuesday, I kind of hit a really low point, like, oh, I'm an extrovert, I'm sick of being home, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to live. And I need to feel good, like I did something productive for 5 minutes. So I'll just go to that list and I'll reach out to the next J on my list. And then I get to the K's and I'm like, I'm on my K's, because we've got 5,000 names on this list, right? It's also really interesting to see where people land.
You know, Martha, I'm with UWM continuing ed. And so today at 1 o'clock, I am going to be talking to a student. This is a very typical situation for me, who says, I'm sick of retail and I want to get into digital marketing. So she's asking about our programs. And in a way, I kind of dread those calls, in the sense when they want to make a big change. You know, our classes are fabulous, they're wonderful, but they're not everything you need. So, I mean, what do you say to people who approach you, who are teachers or retail or something, and they want to make that first big move? I have my things that I say. I'm wondering what you would say to those people who want to switch in an area that seems fairly, it's great if it's somewhat related, but if it seems fairly unrelated.
We are a country or a culture of instant gratification, where you connect with people right away. Wow, that never used to be true, right? And so my first word of caution for folks is that this is not a magic bullet. You're looking at months, sometimes years, before you actually are able to get into that. That doesn't mean that nothing's happening during that time. And so if you really want to get into that industry, go to our resources site and look at the professional associations. Start connecting with folks and finding out what they say you need to know, concurrent with your educating yourself and acquiring the skills. Meanwhile, there's another bridge to that. So you're reaching out over here, and it's not going to be instant. It's going to be weeks, months, years. You're reaching out, you're learning over here, and then you're going to bridge that by learning what skills you need to know and making those connections and using these digital skills in that reaching out. So why not create your own CRM process in doing that? I work with a lot of high school students that want to get to college, or college students that are jumping into their careers, and they want I want the internship now, or and it just doesn't happen that way. And the other thing is that sometimes if the opportunity isn't there, then you make your own. So create your own internship, practice. You want to do content for social media, create your own website and then use social media, or create your own blog in a communications realm and start using social media to populate that. Create your own dashboard on Google Analytics to find out how it's working, what moved the needle. And if moving the needle might be, gee, instead of, 3 clicks, engagements, shares, whatever, I got 5. Well, that's a 50% increase. So start learning the craft in a very small way. But the bottom line, go back to there's no instant gratification here. It's going to be a while. And also those moves can be, maybe I've met some folks that are like, I'm going to be a graphic designer. So they go to MATC and they learn all about Adobe Creative Suite and photography and blah, blah, blah. And they don't end up being a graphic designer. But what that did was it gave them a stepping stone to maybe being a much better marketer or a teacher, who knows?
Yeah, those are all great points. Thank you for that. That reinforces some things I've been saying and fills in some, other points. So that's That's great. Thanks so much.
One
Okay.
thing I would say, Christine, is the way I sell the chapter is that this is a great place. This is a sandbox for
Mhm.
somebody who wants to build their skills. So if you had somebody who was like, hey, I used to drive trucks, or I have none of this, but I want to become a
Mhm.
marketer, I'd say join and come on in, and we'll give you, here's a sandbox and let's go play. Right? We'll figure this out, because you're not going
I
to.
certainly do mention the
Yep.
AMA as well as other organizations and talk about volunteering for them and do, getting to know the people in the organization. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. Always part of what I have to say.
And your former career, the one that you're trying to get out of, because like, I never want to be another teacher again, those kids, rah, rah, rah. That can be your stepping stone. So perhaps you're learning this new skill over here and you keep reaching out to McDonald's and you reach out to, the places you've always wanted to work that are really sexy. And then you boom, boom, closed door, closed door. Well, you've got this level of expertise over here. And so when I talk about the resources page, we have the American Marketing Association, but maybe you used to be a paralegal. There's also the Legal Marketing
I
Association.
often talk about that laddering because I've changed careers many times in my life, and often they'll reach out to me and it appears as if they have no connection. But then as I go through it with them, there was a guy who was a journalist in Madison. Then he went on to be a teacher, and now he wants to get into digital marketing. And he really wasn't seeing the path. And so I kind of laid out some stepping stones for him and said, it's not as far-fetched as you think. And wouldn't you know, top of mind, I came across a job when I was going through marketing jobs that was in a school system looking for digital marketing for somebody with a journalism background. So thanks. I really appreciate your comments. They're great.
You never know your connection either, right? So sometimes when I'm making these contacts and stuff on my Excel spreadsheet, LinkedIn will feed me, or Twitter will feed me a name, or I'll see a comment of a name, and they're like really important. They are the chief marketing officer or the marketing director for ESPN out in Seattle, and they run the fantasy football league, which is like, I love sports. So I'm like, oh my gosh, why is this person here? They wouldn't have anything to do with me. Well, it ends up she actually runs the data analytics for fantasy football for ESPN out of Seattle, but she's a UWM grad, and so am I. So I have this connection, and I'm like, I'm not such a loser after all. We go to the same college, so
Yeah.
you just never know.